Australia has officially been announced as currently in a recession. There are multiple economies which are also in recessions or will soon be following suit. It's extremely important to understand the correct ways of managing your money during these unprecedented times. It's statistically proven that 75% of people actually manage their own money. However, there's only a proportion of those people that understand the correct ways of looking after their finances. There are multiple money traps which people need to avoid and will be drawn to due to the fear of loss of job and loss of income and wealth. Today we'll be discussing my top 5 money traps to avoid during the current situation and how to make sure you can control your finances. What is going on, guys? It's Thomas here, and today we'll be discussing my top 5 money traps to avoid during a recession. Now, understanding how to control your finances and manage your wealth becomes extremely important during a recession. It's extremely important to understand the correct ways to be able to manage your finances and to be able to increase your wealth during these times. The main issue which people find during these times is the fear of loss of wealth and loss of income. Now, today we'll be discussing my top 5 money traps to avoid and how to be able to increase and manage your wealth during a recession. Alrighty guys, before we get stuck in, please make sure you destroy the like button below, hit subscribe and the notification bells, and we'll get cracking. Alrighty, so we'll start with my first money trap to avoid, and that is not having an emergency fund. Now, emergency fund is basically a savings account which you've got saved away for a rainy day. So if something like a recession happens or job loss or something comes up that's an expense that you wouldn't have predicted, then you've got that savings account put in place to be able to cover your expenses during this period. Now, it's essential for every single person to have an emergency savings account in case something like this happens. And when you look at the statistics of how many people actually have savings, it's pretty scary. 56% of individuals don't have enough savings to be able to cover 3 months worth of expenses. That's more than half the population can't even look after themselves for 3 months if they were to lose their jobs. So if you are looking to invest, I highly recommend investing into an emergency savings account before you put any money into any markets. It's the most essential point of your money management plan, and it's the first thing you need to look after before you even think about investing your money. Now, I typically recommend having between 3 and 6 months of emergency savings put away into a high interest account, just leaving it there earning a little bit of interest, but the main point of it is that you've got liquidity and funds available if job loss was to happen or something unprecedented was to happen to your life. So when I'm talking about expenses, I'm not talking about every single expense, it's just the necessary expenses. So things like home repayments, car insurances, car repayments, nappies, bills, food, just your basic simple needs that you need to live. So not like things like going out to a fancy restaurant or going to grab a drink. It's basically just your necessary expenses. So any expenses that you need to live, make sure you save between 3 and 6 months and put them into a savings account for a rainy day. Alrighty, my second money trap to avoid during a recession is not putting a budget in place. Now, what you typically find is that when we go into situations like we are now, the savings percentage of individuals will increase dramatically. Now, this is because people are freaking out that, they might have job loss or loss of wealth and whatnot, so they start hoarding their money and keeping it and saving it just in case something like this happens and they end up losing their job. Now, if you follow tip 1, you'd already have that savings plan in place. This is why I highly recommend an emergency savings account. However, unfortunately, the majority of people don't have this in place. So for the typical Australian, they typically would save $6 for every $100 earned. However, currently Australians are saving $20 for every dollar earned. This means that the average savings amount has tripled in the last 3 months. And it's now become the highest savings amount for the last century. Now, I can understand why people are doing this. We are in unprecedented times and it's something that no one's ever experienced before. But the fact that we've increased savings by so much really does have a massive effect on the economy in general. Now, to start with, the level of savings should be higher in the first place. People should be saving more than $6 for every $100 they earn. Majority of people will live paycheck to paycheck. And now, obviously, I understand that people are coming from different economic conditions and climates, and they do have expenses which they need to cover and are coming from different situations. However, budgeting your money and being able to understand exactly where your wage and where your income is going is extremely important for your financial planning. The main benefit of putting a budget in place is understanding how much money you spend on certain expenses. Now the best way to do this is basically just take a blank spreadsheet and track every single dollar that you spend for 30 days. It's pretty crazy when you do this. I myself didn't realize how much money I spend on certain things, and when you actually physically write down how much money you're spending, it really does make you step back and understand where your money's going to. This is why people live paycheck to paycheck, because they really don't understand exactly where their money's going. Now I'm not saying become a tight ass and stop spending money. There's a difference between being cheap and being frugal. Now I'm all for being frugal and spending money on things that you actually enjoy and that you place a value on. So like myself, I enjoy going out and having a nice feed, and I love traveling, but I don't really care about fancy clothes, so I'm happy to spend the money on a nice feed out and going out or traveling overseas. But when it comes to spending clothes, I'll try to keep that at a minimum. But you might enjoy spending things on luxuries and happy to spend a bit more of your income on those type of things, but you don't really care about going out. So you just really need to make sure that the money that you're spending is on things that you have a high value on. I know people talk about living below their means, and in my opinion, you only get one life, so you should enjoy it, but you should be able to enjoy it spending your money on things that you really do value. So grab a blank spreadsheet, just write down your expenses for 30 days. It really will become a mind-blowing experience for you. I've also linked down below a more detailed spreadsheet for those people who do really like looking through Excel. Alright, the third money trap to avoid during a recession is stopping investing. So what you typically find is that the majority of casual investors will be inundated with fear, so they'll stop investing when the markets are falling. However, this is when there's the most opportunity. You need to flip your mindset when you see markets falling and understand that these times is when stocks are on a discount. Now obviously there's reasons as to why the market's falling. You need to make sure that you do your research into companies you're looking to invest in. However, if there's real value in the company, this is the best opportunity to buy in when stocks are at a discount. And what you typically find is that the casual investor will stop investing their money and just keep that money in a savings account for a rainy day. Now, if you did follow tip number 1 and you do have a savings plan and an emergency fund in place, then this is the best opportunity to make the most of the falling markets. Like the great Warren Buffett said, be fearful when others are greedy and greedy when others are fearful. This is the time to be greedy when it comes to investing. Now, the best way to do it, in my opinion, is through dollar cost averaging. So this basically means just investing a little bit of money, particularly every month or every couple of weeks, and that way you can make the most of the discounting pricing, so you're buying in at different levels. So if the market's on its way down, you're able to buy in at different levels and then continue the same on the way up. Now this is definitely a better option than just lump sum investing, in my opinion, and this is due to the fact that if you do lump sum invest, you're only buying in at one price, and obviously no one knows if the market's going to increase and decrease. But if the market is on the way down, then there probably is a higher chance of the market decreasing. So just to be able to protect yourself and protect your investment, I typically do recommend dollar cost average in your investments, and this is my own investment strategy. This is how I invest myself. I put a little bit of my income into my investments every single month, and I dollar cost average in at different prices. Alrighty, so money trap number 4 to avoid kind of follows on from the last one, and that is dumping all your money and all your savings just into a savings account. Now the first thing people will do when fear overtakes their money management systems is to dump all their money into a savings account. Now people typically think that savings accounts are the most safest way to keep their money saved. Now this really isn't the case, and this is more of the case now than anything, in my opinion, and this is due to the fact of inflation. So inflation basically means that every year your money will basically be worth less, and due to the fact that interest rates are so low at the moment, inflation's basically going to be higher than the interest rates. So this means if you have your money in a savings account, it's actually going to decrease in value over time. And in my opinion, inflation will increase due to the fact that governments are printing more and more money. And if the governments are printing more and more money and are quantitative easing the economy, this basically means that your money that you have is going to be worth less because there's more of it circulating in the economy. And if you do your research, the majority of savings accounts are giving interest rates of less than 1%. This is just crazy. It's never been this low before. However, there is benefits of interest rates being so low. It makes it a lot easier to borrow money. It's for investments, and typically you find that the lower the interest rates, the higher the consumer spending. So there is great reasoning as to why interest rates are low, and I'm not complaining about that. I just want you to make sure that you understand that when you do put money into a savings account, it really is losing value. Now, I'm not dissing savings account. If you do feel uncomfortable investing your money, completely understand. Just make sure you do your research when it comes to savings accounts. Some savings accounts will give you higher interest rates than others, so do your research into what savings accounts are available for you currently. I have linked one down below for my Australian watchers. There's a Westpac 3% savings account at the moment. 3% is a great amount for a savings account. At the moment, I'd recommend looking for something between kind of 2.5% to 3% if you can get it. There's a lot of savings accounts which will have like a bonus interest period. So look around, shop around. Don't just stick with your typical bank. Look for the best option for you and for your income and your money. Alrighty guys, so my 5th money trap to avoid during a recession, mainly focused at my Australian watchers, and this is pulling money out of your super account. So the Australian government has allowed for individuals to be able to pull money out of their superannuation if they can prove that they're at a loss of income. Now this was $10,000 being able to be pulled out last financial year and another $10,000 this financial year. Now it may look like a great initiative for people struggling and people in financial distress. It's going to have a massive impact on your superannuation and your retirement plan moving forward. Now this is just due to compound interest. So let's just take, for instance, you're taking $10,000 out of your super account, and let's just say you're 30 years old. Now you've got about 35 years where this $10,000 could have been earning a return in your superannuation, and let's just use the conservative number of 6%. So the stock market typically increases 8% per year. Let's just say it increases 6% in your superannuation account. So if you have this $10,000 and you've got it invested at a 6% return for 35 years, when you're 65, this $10,000 will be worth $76,000. Now the AFSA has stated that a comfortable amount of superannuation to retire on for an individual is approximately $545,000. So if you're 30 years old and you pull out $10,000 from your super, when you're 65, you're basically going to be at a decrease of 13.9% of the comfortable range stated for your superannuation retirement fund. Now, obviously, again, I understand that people are at different financial situations and there may be a great reason as to why people are pulling out their super, but in general, if you're pulling out your super without a great reason, it's going to have a detrimental impact on your retirement plan moving forward. Now, there are reasons why I would recommend pulling out your super. If you do have debts which have a high interest rate, then this opportunity would become a great option for you to be able to pay down those debts. Typically because your super won't be earning as much due to the current situation. However, just for general expenses, I would not recommend pulling your super out. Keep it in there, keep it investing. So if you can avoid pulling your super out, please do not pull your super out. In my opinion, it will be detrimental for your retirement plans moving forward. Alrighty guys, thank you so much for tuning in. These are my top 5 money traps to avoid during a recession. If you do have any questions, please feel free to leave your comments below. Let me know any money traps you also think you need to avoid during a recession. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. If you did enjoy the video, please make sure you destroy the like button below, hit that subscribe button and the notifications bell. Thank you again so much for watching today's video, and I look forward to seeing you next time.